morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of BOLD TV. We are here today to talk about another interesting topic, and we'll be addressing the issue of red flags in relationships. And today I'm your host. My name is Afeong Etem. I am a member of Bold Hearts Network. I'm based in Uyo, a spinal cord injury survivor, and I'll be anchoring today's episode. But before we go on, I'd just like to let you know that Bold Hearts or Bold TV is powered by Bold Hearts Network. It's a program designed to inform you and educate persons with disabilities and also the wider public about the issues relating to disability. And this program is not, we don't have any organization sponsoring us, but from time to time, we have good-hearted individuals who choose to be partner with us to make this program possible. So if you want to be part of those who want to support us in keeping us, on air, I would also solicit your support and ask that you reach out to any of the co-hosts here, myself, Osaki, Tomisin, Biose, or Freki, and we will get back to you on how you can be a part of this program. So today, like I said, we're talking about red flags in relationships. Red flags are behaviors or warning signs that can, indicate when there is abusive behavior or unhealthy or manipulative actions in any relationship. And when we say relationship in this manner, we are not talking about just romantic relationships. We're also talking about the family. We're talking about friendship, different kinds of relationships. In every relationship, that you have red flags that tell you that that relationship is unhealthy. It has moved from healthy to and is heading towards toxic. But before we proceed with the discussion, I would like the ladies here to introduce themselves. I have a panel of discussants and I'm sure they will do justice to this topic. So I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. Florence, welcome. You're joining us for the first time. So please introduce yourself, your name, your location, your type of disability, and what you do.
All right, good morning all. My name is Florence Wobe. I am from River State. I have only a problem. So for the occupation I do for now, I thank God I am a lecturer.
Good day, everybody. I'm glad to be here. I'm Osaki Teresa Georgie. I reside in River State, Port Harcourt, polio survivor, and also I'm a trainer in Microsoft applications and also a network marketer. Thank you.
I'm going to start with you, Florence. What do you understand as red flags? What do you understand to be red flags in any relationship? What would be your own definition? I know I've laid a foundation and given an introduction. What do you consider to be red flags? How would you define red flags?
To my own understanding, red flag is a signal. Know that flag is a signal. And that red flag is a signal of danger, which shows that something is not right in that relationship. And which one, if such signals should show up, one should be sensitive enough to know when the flag turns red. So to me, you said it is a dangerous sign in relationship, which one need to be sensitive about.
Okay, to move on to the next question, because we've already mentioned that red flags, we've already defined red flags so that we don't, overflog the issue. We've already talked about red flags being warning signs that indicate that a relationship is no longer beneficial, is no longer healthy, and that, the person in that, the people in the relationship would do better if they were apart. So now we're going to, focus on highlighting the different red flags in different kinds of relationships, whether in the family or in romantic relationships. So Osaki, I'd like you to take in the family. What are some red flags, that anybody who is part of a family will identify to indicate that, the relationship is not healthy?
Red flags in family relationship are one is when you could not manage anger management. When one cannot control his or her anger in a family, the slightest mistake someone did, you overreact, you shout, you nag, you bag. You are not even ready to even want to listen or hear what happened before you take your final judgment. And also, red flag could also be over controlling behavior. When the behavior of someone is being nasty or negative, you're trying to correct person. This is what you should do at this time. The person is not ready and is not willing to even accept your own kind of advice, and just because I must do this. If I must come late it's just okay. In the family by this time, late once is 9 o'clock. Nobody should be outside by 9 o'clock. When some person in the family want to exceed that 9 o'clock in the name of I'm now an adult, you want to claim your old enough to take care of yourself without obeying the rules and regulations of the family. Thank you.
Okay, so you mentioned that red flags could be, issues of anger management, issues of, rebellious attitude, and issues surrounding how we interact with one another. I like a few red flags in friendship. Osaki has talked about the family, a few red flags in friendships. We are talking about red flags in different relationships, different types of relationships. So you are going to highlight red flags that can be identified in friendship. So please introduce yourself and then get to that question.
All right, thank you very much, Afyong. Good morning, everybody. It's another beautiful Saturday in the life of mankind, and I'm so excited to be here discussing red flags in relationships. My name is Oluwatomi Adeyefa. I'm a broadcast journalist. I'm a sound engineer, a disability and gender rights advocate, a teen counselor, sexual and reproductive health advocate as well, and feels good to be here. Talking about red flags in friendship. Okay, now there are some people when they come into your life as acquaintances, before you graduate to that point where you can say you are friends or you've developed something called friendship. Okay, before you graduate to that point where you can say we are friends, I mean, it means that the person must have ticked a few things off your list. It means that the person would have, satisfied some of your requirements or needs or wants before you can say they are your friends. Now, so if you have people in your circle of friends and they are not what you expect, or you are not gaining what you expect, or they are not adding to what you expect them to do, there is a problem. If you have a friend that loves to talk about other people, instead of you guys to be talking about your own growth and development, how you're going to achieve this, how you're going to make this happen, all they do is tell you what Afyong did, what Osaki did, what Freki did. They never talked about, my friend Tomi Singh, what's up with you? Those things are red flag in friendship. And when it comes to me as a woman with disability, okay, because of my disability, I'm a visually impaired person, like I said earlier. It means that some people come to your house or they are around you as friends and they cannot tell you when certain things are not in place. So for instance, as a visually impaired person, I have a sighted friend who cannot tell me, oh, my friend, this dress you are putting on is dirty. Oh, there's cobweb in this living room. Oh, this and this has gone wrong. Let me help with it and all of that. It means that such a person is not even worthy to be in my circle because, they know that obviously I cannot do these things myself and they are not willing to either let me know or assist in doing it as a friend. So such people, they do not qualify to be called friends. I'll rest for now. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you. So you've highlighted the issue of, interactions between friends. So some red flags that you brought up are, dishonesty, sometimes not being nonchalant, not being committed to that relationship, even as friends. When somebody does not, put your interest, does not have your interest at heart, and just, goes ahead to do what they want without thinking about how it will affect you, insensitivity, and being inconsiderate, as friends. So these are some of the things that can be highlighted. So Florence, I'm going to come to you. I'd like you to highlight some red flags in romantic relationships. We've talked about the family, we've talked about friendship. Now let's go into, romantic or intimate partner relationships. What are some of the red flags that, women and girls with disabilities should be able to look out for?
All right. In the area of relationship, in the area of romantic or whatever relationship that we're talking about, we can talk about constant abuse. And this abuse can come in diverse form. It can come in mental abuse, it can come in physical abuse, and it can also come in emotional abuse. So in physical abuse can easily be identified, which is undeniable. But for you to identify mental and emotional abuse is very, very difficult, especially with one suffering with living with disabilities. You know that physical abuse is a common thing that which we can easily identify, and which is a major red flag in relationship. Then another one, based on what our sister said, overly controlling behavior. So my own understanding in relationship, that in a romantic relationship, overly controlling behavior, you don't have right to take decision on your own. You don't have right to go to where you go to, whether in terms of religious, in terms of outing or whatsoever. You don't have right to take decision. All your decision, whatsoever thing your spouse or what your partner says is what yes and amen, yes and a. That's just what he or she wants you to hear from that aspect. Then in another, we'll talk about distrust. When the trust is no longer there at all, you always look for reasons. You always find fault in whatsoever thing he or she, whatever she does. Because in this area, since the trust is not there, there is nothing she can say or do that will make you to believe that this thing is what's right. Because you have built in the distrust in her. The doubt is already in you that there is nothing that this kind of person will do just because the love is not there. Because if you can trust somebody. You cannot trust somebody you don't love. But if you love somebody, you must trust that person. And if you don't trust that person, you cannot love that person. So if the love is not there, the trust is not there. Especially with persons living with disability. At least with these three, we can go ahead with it.
All right. So in romantic relationships, you've highlighted a few issues. You've talked about abuse, which can be physical, emotional, psychological, economic. There are different forms of abuse that can take place in intimate partner relationships. And so these are some of the things that, most times women find it difficult to, identify, especially the non-physical abuse. It's easy to identify. If someone is physically abusive, you will know because there's beating, there's injury. Sometimes, injury is the person is injured in the process. You will know when somebody is physically abusive towards you, but sometimes the emotional and psychological abuse can be very subtle. The person can be manipulative. You may not easily identify. There's something called gaslighting, where somebody makes you feel as if, you don't know what you're doing. The person makes you question your own sanity. Are you sure of what you're doing? Do you even know what you are doing? These are some of the issues. Economic abuse, where somebody, withholds certain things from you that have economic benefits, does not allow you to be economically empowered, so that you're not able to have a voice. So your voice is suppressed because you don't have, any ability. And then, in the case of psychological abuse, like the gaslighting we've mentioned, where somebody tries to make you feel like, lowers your worth by making you question your sanity and makes you feel like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't think I don't know anything. And the person makes you feel as if you're less than what you are or who you are. And the person makes you feel like you're not worthy, you have no value. So the aim of in some of those red flags is when somebody, you know, you will find yourself in a relationship where you're with someone who you always feel, you know, sometimes you develop feelings of anxiety. You have feelings of anxiety, you have feelings of, you know, sometimes there's fear, you know, you don't just feel comfortable around that person. You are afraid to voice out your opinions because, you know, you're afraid that the person may put you down. The person is always putting you down, never values your input. So these are some of the signs that make you know that in this relationship, you know, I am not considered as an equal partner, whether it's a family member, whether it's a friend, or, you know, a romantic partner. Red flags exist in every relationship, and we've highlighted some of them here. But, you know, since our focus, you know, and the focus of this program is women and girls with disability, there are certain red flags that are peculiar to women and girls with disability, and we are going to highlight some of those red flags so that, you know, women and girls with living with disability out there will be able to identify it in their whatever relationship they find themselves in. So I'm going to start with you, Tomisin. Can you, you know, mention or talk about some of the red flags that are specific to women and girls with disabilities, how they can identify those red flags?
I mentioned one
Saki,
earlier.
you answered the question after her.
All right.
Okay, Tomisin, go ahead.
Okay, so I mentioned one earlier in my prologue where I talked about, for me as a woman with visual impairment, you know, you have some friends when, you know, they come to your house, they can't even point out things that are not supposed to be. So for instance, maybe you have cobwebs in your house, and you as a blind person, naturally, you may not know. But these friends come, they eat, they play, they gist with you, and then, you know, they just go like that. And perhaps it's just a neighbor that will say, Madam Lagbaja, there's cobwebs here. You might need to do some cleaning right there. You know, such people, they are always indifferent to your disability. Some persons are ashamed of even relating with you. You know, it's only when it is so, what's the word? When you do not have anyone else to turn to, that you have to turn to them for help or assistance or guidance, because I mean, they are ashamed to be seen with you, they are ashamed to relate with you. Now, some friends will not do anything for you as a woman or girl with disability without expecting nothing in return. Those are red flags. You know, friends who call themselves friends, and each time they help you or they are of little assistance, they are always, you know, waiting for you to give them something. And then if you cannot afford to give them that thing at that particular time, they would not come back again or something, or they'll give you excuses at other days that you need them. So those are some of the red flags I can say right now.
All right, thank you. So you've highlighted friends being inconsiderate, you know, especially for persons with disabilities. It's getting help. It's not something that you can, you know, avoid. From time to time, you can't do everything by yourself. So from time to time, you will need assistance, you will need help in some area. So you need people around you that will be, you know, willing to help out, sometimes without you asking, when they notice that something is not the way it should be. And when you ask, they should be able to tell you the truth. So honesty, you know, a lack of honesty and being inconsiderate when it you know, especially when it comes to friends. Osaki, can you highlight, you know, the specific red flags that relate to women and girls with disabilities, especially in the family setting?
Some of these red flags we normally get are one, verbal abuse. You know, there are ways people will just tell you, if I'm not here, I want to do it for yourself. You know, that kind of thing. And you just say, okay, please just assist me. The next answer is, what if I'm not here? I want to do it. And you know too well that at that point in times, you are in need. There's no point answering me like, if I'm not here. So that's already a red flag already. And also, people, caregiver, whoever is around you, sees most of us as burden. And all what they do most time is complain. You might just call the person, I'm not here. Or they give a silly statement. I'm coming now. The response that they give to you, it already just puts you off. And that's a serious red flag. Because most times You don't need to complain for me to see that you're not willing to help me or willing to assist me. And also, for those for sexual in family, suppose that are married, there's sexual abuse. The man just feel that anytime he wants you, he can get you without even asking you if you need him at that point in time. He sleeps you anyhow, he touches you anyhow without asking, are you okay? Or can I touch you? Yeah. He just feel that your body is his own because he got married to you. So he feels that without him, nobody else again, your life depends on him, and he can abuse you the way he likes sexually. And also I'll talk about they've justified every negative action without even saying I'm sorry. They just say every bad thing that they do to you, you should just swallow it. After all, I'm trying to help you. Let's say now I'm going for a meeting and I needed you to just help me to carry certain things out of the car or into the car because I'm running out. The next thing you hear to tell you that I was coming now. I'm just trying to do this for you, trying to make you feel that without them you're nobody. Justifying every negative action that they just did towards you, that they should, that's what they should. Every bad behavior is being justified that is what you deserve because you need an assistant from a friend or from a spouse or whatever. And for the family, those that are married, infidelity is one another thing that most times they face. The spouse will go outside willingly, happily. Infidelity is like a norm. You cannot satisfy me, you cannot do this. I went to someone that can do it. Without even feeling remorse or feeling sad, you are happy that you've cheated this person.
All right. Okay, Osaki, thank you. Don't finish all the points so that other people can have something to say. Okay, so you've highlighted a few points there. You've talked about you moved from family to, intimate partner relationships. You've talked about in the family, making you feel like a burden, in the family, making you, unwillingness to help, making it seem like, you're not, you're more or less like you're a problem. So you feel like, oh, if you weren't like this, kind of highlighting or emphasizing your disability. All right. And then you went to intimate partner relationships where you talked about, the emotional, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and, other forms of psychological abuse. All right, Florence, do you have anything to add?
Another thing I want to add on this is just like a fact, is a summary of what Osake and Domisi said. Lack of attention. We need attention. As persons living with disability, we need what? Attention. Even if you don't make it obvious to them, we need what? Attention, which will make us to get that feeling. Because in a family, in relationship, in whatsoever, as friends or whatsoever, wherever they come, they should know that this is what you want. This is what you don't. Or some of them should be able to ask questions by saying, please, I want to leave. What can I do for you before I will leave? In order for you not to be stranded, because there are some situations that when somebody is not there, you may not be able to do some certain thing. So we need what? Attention. That's what I have to add.
Okay, so I think that cuts across different relationships. When a woman or girl with disability finds herself either in the family or with friends or in a romantic relationship, that person should be able to consider your needs. It shouldn't just be about, the person shouldn't make you feel like you're asking for too much. When you ask for help, or sometimes even before you ask, the person should take the time to even ask you, is there anything I can do for you? The person should actually factor in your own needs while planning for the day, knowing that yes, you will need some level of assistance. So if you find yourself in a relationship where nobody bothers to ask you, what do you need? What can I do for you? Is there any way I can help you? Then there's something wrong. Yes, in as much as they won't always come and ask you, you also speak up when you need help. But it's also when you find it, even if it's in a family, even if there were no disability, at least once in a while, have you eaten? Is there something I can get you? Showing that care and love, it should be, openly expressed. All right, ladies. So we're going to move on to our final question, because our time is, running out fast. And since we've highlighted these red flags, we've talked about the red flags, when people, another thing is that for persons with disabilities, before we move on, for women and girls with disabilities, you find yourself in a relationship where, your disability is the focus. Everything they talk about revolves around your disability. They focus too much on it, or sometimes they ignore it. So those are two extremes. Either they focus too much on it, everything they talk about must be about it. It's because you're like this, that is why things are like this. Or sometimes they pretend as if the disability does not exist, and by doing so, they ignore you. So there are two extremes also. So for women and girls with disabilities, that is a red flag. You find yourself in a situation where either maybe you're seeing someone and the person has not even one day asked you, how did you become disabled? Were you born like this? Has not indicated any interest whatsoever. That is a red flag. The person doesn't really care. He's not interested in what is going on with you. Or if the person is always talking about it, that's the only thing the person likes to talk about. Every conversation must end there. Then there's also a problem. There should be a balance. The person should show interest without being too focused on it. So we have to, pay attention when we are interacting with people around us to be able to recognize that these are some of the things that can happen. Another thing is without having no respect for your boundaries. There are sometimes, even in your family, sometimes they think that just because you're a person with a disability, nobody should take permission from you. Nobody should ask you, do you want this or don't you want this? Or Saki mentioned something like that. Nobody wants to know your interest. They just assume that, well, whatever you see, you take. Whatever we do, you accept it. Nobody thinks that you have a right. So sometimes your boundaries are, infringed on. So these are some of the things that you must recognize. And sometimes in family, you need to speak out about it and let them know that, look, I'm not comfortable with this. And if it's a relationship you can walk away from, then you do so to protect your mental health. So, okay, let's move on to, how can women and girls with disability, handle these red flags? What should they do if a woman or girl with disability finds herself in this situation? What should she do?
To me, based on my own understanding and due to the researches which we have done, if you find yourself in any relationship and you are experiencing red flags, as a woman living with disability, or whether living with disability or not, because we know that red flags exist in all relationships. There's no relationship that is stacked, that this one is for persons living with disability. These are the characteristics or the criterion that the person is supposed to pass through. No, but for generally or specifically for persons living with disability, we should be able to set boundaries. What I don't like it. Because they say that what you cannot control in relationship, you cannot control it in marriage. What you cannot handle in relationship, you cannot handle it in marriage. So if you start living with pretense that when I get married, things will get better. You don't know, maybe when you get married, your partner might say, oh, okay, oh, you have changed, or this, that, or that. Start saying one thing or the other. So you should be able to set what? Standard. Tell the person, this is what I don't want. Like that, in some relationship, or there are some friends that comes closer to me. Whenever you come, if you make adversaries on me, I cut off and I tell you, I give you a befitting band. I set a befitting boundary and tell you, I don't like this. Don't try it next time. So if you try it next time, you whether in a relationship or love relationship or whatsoever relationship, you should be able to set what? Boundaries. This is what you want and this is what you don't want. Whosoever that likes it should come, and whosoever that don't like it should go.
Okay. Wow, that's quite, that's the basics of, interaction. No matter the relationship you find yourself in, whether it's in the family setting, whether it's friends, whether it's a romantic partner, boundaries are important. Boundaries tell people that I value myself and this is what I want for myself. So if you don't set boundaries, people, then you're saying you're like a city without a wall. So anybody can access it. So you must set boundaries. Boundaries are very important to ensure that some of these issues that arise, you will also be able to recognize it, because you will know that, no, this is not good for me. And then you can also decide whether to walk away or take some other action. All right, so Osaki.
Okay, how to resolve or help yourself when it comes to any of these red flags. One, I would say it's acknowledge your needs, like what Florence said. The things you need, the things you want, acknowledge it, say it out, and don't make excuses. Try, because most times you say, the way the person treated you, I don't like you to. So your friend is telling you that I don't like the way she talked to you or the way he talked to you. You are making excuse to cover up for that person's error. Something you are take note of it. So the person repeat next time, or after that time, you correct the person on that issue. But because of we are scared of losing the friendship, you make excuse for that person and swallow it till the day it gets worse than what you can bear. Also, seek for professional help. Whenever you notice certain red flags, ask people. If you think you're not sure that, is it a red flag? Ask someone else. Look at what she told me. Look at how she treated me. Do you think it's good or it's bad? And so, and you see people that tell you, certain things are not good, they are not proper, they are unhealthy for your health. No matter your situation or circumstance, you deserve the best, and you need the right frame of life to live. And my last one is avoid being over emotional. Don't see every action as a red flag. So be able to differentiate the one that is a red flag, is danger to you, and the one that is a concern at the time. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Osaki. You've really highlighted a few salient points. You've talked about, getting professional help. I know, in our own society, sometimes it's seen as a sign of, oh, something is wrong. So I don't want people to know. If you need help, get help. Don't wait until things get too bad. And then you said being over emotional is also possible to, be too paranoid. You see everything as, oh, there's something wrong, when it may just be something you can discuss, talk about, and work it out. But always be on alert, pay attention, and if you're not sure, get help from people who are more, experienced. All right, Tomisin.
Hey, wait. Okay. Thank you very much. Afio, please, can you come back to me? Let me give this baby to our mom.
Okay. All right.
Please.
All right. Frankie, do you have something to add?
Okay, with respect to how to handle red flags, I think we've said a lot of it, but I think you should not feel bad about taking a firm decision, irrespective of what family members think. So, example, if you find yourself in a relationship, let's say it's a relationship with the opposite sex, and the general notion when it comes to women with disabilities is that, thank God, somebody has even smiled your way. But then you find that this relationship is probably not going to be in your best interest. You would need to be firmly, separate from that person. You'll find that the advocates of that person will be close members. I'm like, what's happening? Most times because they don't maybe know the depth of the relationship. So if you make a decision to separate yourself, be firm with your decision. Don't be swayed by, persons who may not know the intricacies of your relationship. So that's my advice in handling red flags. When you have seen the red flags, you've made the decision that, okay, this is not going to work for me. Try to stand by it, because immediately you do that, make that decision, there will be so many persons who will come and be like trying to understand what happened, and they were not in the relationship with you. So that's mine.
Okay, thank you. So many times, you've brought up a very good point, because many times persons in relationships who may be in toxic relationships may have, feel guilty, because they remember, oh, it's usually this person wasn't always like this. I don't want, like Osaki said before, I don't want to lose this, person in my life. And then you begin to feel feelings of guilt, and make you remain in a relationship that is unhealthy. So don't feel guilty for cutting yourself off from someone who may not be treating you the way you should be treated. And that starts with being aware of yourself and what you want, what is good for you. Tomisin, are you available now?
Yes, I'm available now.
All right.
Okay, so in addition to what everybody has talked about, I would say that when you notice a red flag, have a discussion with the other person. especially if it is not something that is life-threatening. You know, have a discussion. Sometimes people around us, families and friends, they don't know what to do, or they don't know how best to come in. Because I've seen instances of people who would not want to tell you things as a person with a disability because they don't want you to feel bad. They don't want you to feel disrespected. So have a discussion with the other person. Highlight those red flags that you've noticed and, you know, discuss it together. Hear their own point of view. Now, in cases where they do not change, where the situation remains the same, I would say that you should, you know, keep such a person away. That's just the truth. Because I mean, if I have a discussion with you and then you're not willing to change, you're not even showing signs of change, it's better so that we avoid future conflicts. It's better I withdraw completely from such a person. And also, I would like to say that as women and girls with disabilities, know who you are bringing into your circle. Not everybody you talk to is qualified to become your friend. Not everybody that asks you out is qualified to be in a relationship with. So know what you want, place premium value on yourself, and select those you bring into your inner circle. Also, I would want to say that what was the word? What's that word I was looking for now? Okay, so just you know who you invite or who you allow into your space. And do not tolerate any form, no matter how minute, of disrespect.
Okay.
Yes, because now from handshake, now in fight they start. You know, before you know it, the handshake moves from the hand to the elbow. Before you know it, you understand. So do not tolerate any form of disrespect. Correct it immediately. Correct it immediately. It's always better that way than let it fester. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Thomasin, thank you so much. You've highlighted a lot of issues. You've talked about, you know, being very careful when it comes to, you know, allowing the people you allow into your life. And that ties into what Florence said about boundaries, knowing who you permit and how far they can go when interacting with you. And then another thing, when you start, you know, if you feel uncomfortable about what somebody says or does, don't wait until, you know, wait. And the more you think, when you give it time, you think about it, then possibly you may, you know, ignore it and the person will most likely repeat it. So address it immediately. I'd call the person's attention to it and let them know that this does not sit well with you, so that next time in future interactions, they do not go back to that. And then most importantly, like I said before, self-awareness. For you to be able to recognize when you're not being treated right, you must all know how you want to be treated. Recognize that you are valuable and that you deserve to be treated a certain way. If you don't know how you want to be treated, if you don't value yourself, then you will not know when you're not being treated right. So for ladies and women and girls with disabilities out there, my advice to you is learn to value yourself. Have that sense of self-worth. Know who you are. Know what you want. Sit down and talk to yourself. How would I want someone to treat me? How would I want my friend to treat me? How would I want my family members to treat me? How would I want, if I were in a relationship with a man, how would I want him to treat me? So think about those things, and then you will be in a place to be able to set the right kind of boundaries and know how to interact and set the pace for those who interact with you. So ladies, I appreciate your contributions. You've done marvelously well. Very, you know, robust discussion. Thank you so much for your contributions here today. And to our audience, thank you for those who are watching. Thank you to our online audience. Your comments, your contributions are welcome. And we hope that, you know, we've been able to address this issue and give you some tips on how, you know, you can apply this in your own lives. So until we come your way again next week, Saturday, same time, 10:30 a.m., we hope that you will stay tuned. And if you, like I said before, if you want to be a part of what we are doing, you're free to, you know, contact any of the co-hosts so that you can be, you know, contribute and help us to continue this noble cause. So until we come your way again next week, Saturday, do good and be sure that you put yourself first. Thank you.